Managers have been part of the WWE for as long as I can remember, and a great manager can either take your career skyrocketing into the stratosphere or have it crashing to the ground. Here are the top 10 managers of all time. Number 10, Mr. Fuji. In 1985, Mr. Fuji went from wrestling to managing. Early on, he focused on tag teams. Demolition was one of the first tag teams that he managed. Demolition, the Axe, and the Smasher were accompanied by Mr. Fuji to the ring, and he created storylines just by being there. He moved on to manage tag teams such as the Powers of Pain that were designed to go against Demolition. Later on, Mr. Fuji would manage Yokozuna. Yeah, Mr. Fuji would just yell at the camera in Japanese, and Yokozuna would just stand there. We may not have known what anybody was saying, but we knew it was intense. Mr. Fuji elevated every wrestler that he touched, and for that, he makes the list. Number 9, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He had success as a wrestler, and he had success as a manager. Creating the $1 Million Corporation, the storyline was that he purchased the contracts of these wrestlers. Wrestlers like IRS, Nikolai Volkov, Bam Bam Bigelow, Kama, King Kong Bundy, and Psycho Sid. He even got the 1-2-3 Kid and Tatanka. The $1 Million Corporation in the late 80s, early 90s was something to deal with. And the $1 Million Man was at the center of it all, flashing his $100 bills and his $1 Million Championship. He also was the man to debut the Ringmaster. Yes, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The $1 Million Man was put with a lot of successes and a lot of struggling wrestlers, and he elevated them all. Number 8, Sensational Sherry. Queen Sherry, Scary Sherry, whatever you wanted to call her, she was amazing. She managed the Macho Man, Randy Savage, who became the Macho King and the Macho Queen, elevating the Macho Man and keeping him relevant well past his WWF Championship days. She then went on to manage the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. She was the voice behind the original Sexy Boy song. Sherry would do anything to be near Shawn. He was her sexy boy. They ended up splitting at the 93 Royal Rumble, where she chose Marty Jannetty over Shawn Michaels. After that, Sherry went on to manage Tatanka in a storyline before leaving the company for cosmetology school. That makeup she wore was insane. Sherry was just a little unhinged, but perfect for all that she managed. Number 7, Corny. Jim Cornette. The tennis racket wielding, leisure suit wearing little man that made up Camp Cornette when he was in the WWF. Yokozuna, Mantar, Owen Hart, Big Van Vader, and the British Bulldog. Wrestling was a weird place then. Anywhere you could put a stable with Mantar and Owen Hart, yeah, things were getting weird. I don't think we got enough of Jim Cornette in the WWF during his time, and maybe that's because of his arch enemy Vince Russo. But either way, it was fun to see Corny in the ring doing his thing every week on Raw. Number 6, Classy Freddy Blassie. Freddy Blassie is a little bit before my time, but even I know that without Freddy Blassie managing the Iron Sheik to his title win over Bob Backlund, there would have been no WrestleMania. Hulk Hogan beating the Iron Sheik created the stage for WrestleMania to happen, and it all started with the Iron Sheik's win over Bob Backlund. The epitome of managers, creating storylines, elevating, and talking for his clients. He did it all. Freddy Blassie was a class act and a legend in the WWE. Maybe that's why Vince kept him on the payroll until he died. Number 5. Oh yeah, Miss Elizabeth, see ya. Yeah, Miss Elizabeth. When she was selected to be the Macho Man's manager out of all the managers who wanted to manage him, Everyone was shocked. Who was this woman walking down the aisle to manage the Macho Man Randy Savage? Yeah. Well, she was the perfect pick. Miss Elizabeth created storylines for the Macho Man. Whether he was protecting her or mad at her, she was at the heart of it all. She was the catalyst for the Mega Powers exploding, which created WrestleMania 5. Hulk Hogan versus the Macho Man. Miss Elizabeth kept Randy Savage relevant, creating storylines just by being there. Whether it was the Honky Tonk Man trying to smack her with a guitar, or Jake the Snake Roberts getting Randy Savage bitten by a snake, Miss Elizabeth was right there, reacting and acting to it all. Number 4. Jimmy the Mouth of the South Hart. Who didn't this guy manage? He was a tag team specialist, to be honest. The Hart Foundation, the fabulous Rougeau brothers. He managed Money Inc. And eventually that led to him managing Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Hulk Hogan. And the huge face turn that Jimmy Hart had. Jimmy Hart managed the Mountie to his first Intercontinental Championship win. The bullhorn wielding little man who was the mouth of the South, created storyline after storyline after storyline for the people that he managed. Number 3. Oh yes, my Undertaker. Paul Bearer. Would the Undertaker be the Undertaker without Paul Bearer? Well, they tried it with Brother Love when Undertaker was first revealed. Brother Love wasn't getting the Undertaker over. They needed someone else. And who better than Paul Bearer? The pale-faced, dark circles under the eyes. He did all the talking for the Undertaker other than rest in. Paul Bearer was the perfect microphone holder for the Undertaker. He didn't need to say much, because Paul handled all that. Later on, Paul Bearer would manage Kane, and was the mouthpiece for Kane before the Kane could talk. Paul Bearer made so many storylines and kept the Kane and Undertaker story going for as long as it needed to go. He was absolutely masterful and played the role so perfectly. Number 2. Bobby the Brain Heenan. Bobby Heenan literally managed everyone. Some of the accolades and people you manage include Harley Race, Mr. Perfect, Andre the Giant, the Brain Busters, and of course, Ric Flair. Bobby Heenan managed them all. He created storylines and he used his platform on Primetime Wrestling with Gorilla Monsoon to get his wrestlers even further over. The quotes this man would say during a promo will live forever. Yes, humanoids, Bobby Heenan is one of the greatest minds in professional wrestling, and definitely one of the best managers of all time. Number 1. My name is Paul Heyman, and it doesn't matter who he advocated for, they were automatically gold. The founder of ECW eventually made his way to the WWF in different stints, but his most recent has been his most successful, managing everyone from Curtis Axel, CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, and now the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman has brought a new aspect to each character that has elevated them to the highest level. Whether he was in the ring with the microphone advocating for Brock Lesnar as he bounced around and looked intimidating, or bowed down to Roman Reigns and got him into one of the greatest storylines since the Mega Powers exploding, none of these things would have been as good without Paul Heyman. He's one of the most brilliant minds in professional wrestling today, and he's definitely my number 1 manager of all time. There's my list. Feel free to comment. Let me know who you think should have made the list. And while you're there, like, subscribe, and click that bell. Until next time.